And welcome back to the Ask Dr. Mather show alongside Dr. Brian Mather, who's the owner of the Spokane Chiropractic and Sports Injury Clinic in North Spokane. Today's topic has to do with cycling injuries and overuse injuries and some of the common things that you see from cyclists who walk through your door, Dr. Mather.
I would say probably the most common thing I see with cyclists is upper back and neck pain, especially people that are training for distances. If they're down in the aero position and their back is really rounded, their head is extended, and they spend a long stretch of time in that position, we're going to see quite a bit of neck and back pain. And a lot of the work that we do with those athletes is just to try to change their postures, get them out of that position, strengthen their back, stretch out their pec and their chest to try to undo the hours that they're in that position. I mean, obviously we can't change the ergonomics of an athlete on their bike. They're in that position for a reason, and so we have to work on the times that they're not in that position to make sure they have better endurance so they can tolerate that down aero position on a more consistent basis.
My first impression or first instinct is it's a bike fit issue. Is not the case?
In some cases, it is a bike fit issue, but I find when we have bike fit issues, we usually have other issues. We have low back pain, we've got knee pain, we've got maybe shoulder pain. What I'm referring to is the hours spent in the saddle in those and down in that aero position that is just posturally not a great position. It's honestly no different than sitting at your desk slouched forward for hours on end. It kind of creates the same problem over time. And as you know, when you're training for an endurance event like an Ironman distance, you spend a lot of hours on that bike over a course of many, many months training. And collectively, that adds up over time. And ironically, it always shows up usually right about 2 to 3 weeks before your event when it becomes to a head. And so we have people coming in the office going, "Can you help me out? I have an event next weekend." And so you're trying to undo 10 months worth of training in 10 days.
It's kind of hard to avoid with those long hours like you're talking about.
Yes.
Is there? I know you've talked about dry land type of training for swimmers. What kind of exercises would you possibly suggest for the triathlete in the aero position?
We have a great foam roll stretch that I put a lot of those people on that seems to work really well. And in essence, what you do is you need a 3-foot long, 6-inch diameter foam roll. So you can't use a noodle that you would use in the pool, and you can't use a short foam roll. It has to be the 3-foot one. And you lay it down on the floor, and you actually lay on it so it runs vertically right up your spine. So your head's supported on one end, your rear end is supported on the other end. You put your arms out to the side at a 90-degree angles with your palms facing the ceiling, and you basically lay there for 10 minutes a day, and it undoes a lot of the postural fatigue that you will have by being on the bike. And then after that, you got to do a little bit of strengthening in the middle back to get those muscles that are getting stretched out and becoming a little bit weaker. You got to get those stronger. The foam roll helps with the stretching of the muscles through the front and the pectoralis. But I would say the foam roll stretch is probably the simplest and one of the most powerful stretches that we give our patients day in and day out, but especially people that are on a bike for extended periods of time.
Are all of us just a little out of adjustment when it comes to our athletic framework? As a chiropractor, when people come in, there's always the pop. You always feel someone, to make the noise. Are we always a little bit out of alignment? Can someone be not out of alignment?
Sure, absolutely. We have patients that come in maybe at the tail end of a treatment plan and things are doing really well and they're healing and there's really nothing to adjust. They're doing well. Having said that, I don't necessarily think that in our athletes that the goal is to strive for perfection at all times. I think that could be an unrealistic approach because you're constantly training day in and day out. You're going to probably have some things that aren't working correctly. The goal is to make sure globally you're functioning correctly. Can your body compensates quite well when one little facet joint in your spine doesn't do its job correctly. But when you get 4 areas that don't do their job, coupled with 30 or 40 muscles that don't do their job, now you functionally have a lot of problems, and that's going to equate to pain and dysfunction. So while, in a perfect world, you'd say, yes, you should have perfect spinal alignment and motion, I don't know that it's a realistic, consistently achievable goal. without a lot of treatment and a lot of care. So I look at it more from a functional standpoint. Are you able to perform? Are you able to do it without aches and pains? And do you have these muscles and these joints working the way they're supposed to, so that you're not training and breaking things down? You have to be cautious about the idea of, well, I don't hurt, therefore there's nothing wrong with me. I haven't met too many triathletes that train and don't hurt, and they usually associate that hurt with training soreness. So the challenge is always trying to figure out what's the difference between I have the beginning of an injury or I'm just sore from training. And that's the challenge, is trying to differentiate that so that you can address the needs you need to address, but you're not running into the doctor every time you have an ache or a pain, because that would be in some cases almost on a daily basis for some triathletes.
And you mentioned this a few moments ago about people are fearful. They get maybe a week or 2 weeks away from the big event. They spent, months and months training for it. One thing I know that you've talked about to me before is Kinesio Tape. This can be one of those fixes so you can get to the start line. And where would you put it on a cyclist? What can they put on their lower back, their knees, shoulders? Would that be appropriate?
Certainly would, if they're having issues. I'm not necessarily an advocate of taping things to avoid problems. I'm an advocate of taping things for a particular effect. That's the purpose of Kinesio Tape. Is there's a lot of different ways to tape things, so we need to have a goal of what we're trying to accomplish. But let's say you're having low back soreness and stiffness from cycling, so there's definitely a taping application for the lower back just to keep those muscles loose. There's a taping application for knees if you're having a patellar tendonitis, so that you can continue to pedal and to push, especially if you're on a hilly course that your event is and you're having some knee discomfort. We certainly can tape you in a way that probably gets you through the race without too many ailments. And then we got some work to do post-race to try to calm everything down so that we can avoid this injury to be an ongoing issue. But there's a lot of different things we could do pre-race if you're having some issues to make sure we get you through your race.
Excellent. All right. If you have a question for Dr. Mather, use the hashtag AskDrMather on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave.